everybody. Welcome to this podcast. And I'm Monique Gauthier, your host. And today I'm talking about, from a midwife's perspective, from a mother's perspective, about the relationship preparation before becoming pregnant, before stepping into parenthood. And let's see if I can create a context for this conversation. What I'm looking at is the fact that contemporarily we live in a time when men and women are raising their children more collaboratively, when it's not all the female's job, when the fathers count just as much as the mothers as far as input and creating an environment for the baby to grow into their best expression, to their optimal well-being. And so this particular conversation is in a time when, let's say in the last 50, 60, 70 years, egalitarian issues have been looked at, and we've really noticed that children's psychology, adult psychology, when fathers are really present and when mothers are less stressful, when the two are working those energies together in collaboration, we have better outcomes. And we can look at, all the science done on kids who succeed and their relationship to both parents, their father's involvement, their mother's involvement. And we can see a direct correlation that if at the get-go we have a team, a mother-father team, or a parent, a partner and mother team, that is really collaborative and harmonious, then we have children who grow up to love themselves, to be harmonious in their own beings, to have some inner peace, to have skills in this world, communication skills, sociability skills, just even pure prefrontal cortex logic and capacity to manage in the world. All these are augmented by parents that get along and have done some thinking about how they want to raise the child so that they are on the same page and that they are loving the process together and everybody feels valued. The mother feels highly valued and the father feels highly valued in each of their roles and each of their input with the child. So I guess the context for this conversation is basically looking at how do we in these days get parents to come together in real ways so that the child really flourishes. And so I'm leaning into some science around this, epigenetic science. Epi means on top of genetics, on top of the genetic stuff that children are given at birth. And what we know about epigenetics is that the environment is what is affecting the baby and the child the most, even more so sometimes than the genetics. So if a child is growing up in a peaceful, happy, playful space where there's lots of communication from both mother and father, they tend to do much better in the world. So let's start off with, how do we ground this? What are we talking about? So first of all, we want to look at when a woman is pregnant, what is happening in that system. So it takes a lot of hormones to create a child. So the soup of hormones, the progesterone, estrogen, and on, be it even stressors, cortisol and adrenaline, all of that is composing and helping or not helping the mother, and the amniotic fluid and the blood system that's perfusing through the placenta. So how she's experiencing the world, her psychological state, and what's influencing her, how she's relating with her partner, is deeply affecting the whole system and how the baby is growing inside the belly. And so along with that, there's going to be, not only is her body changing, her blood volume doubles by the time she's 28 weeks pregnant. There's so many changes in what it feels like in the body to be growing and expanding and having a being always inside of you that you're responsible for. And that can kind of be sometimes like, it can sometimes feel like PMS on steroids. It can kind of feel like way too many feelings for many moms while while they're going through pregnancy. So the first trimester is pretty normal to have feelings of ambivalence, of not knowing, well, how's this going to go, and am I doing it right, and oh my gosh, I feel so nauseous, and the whole first trimester is a huge adaptation. And what would be best is that she's able to have a restful environment, because she's very tired dealing with the nausea. 70% of women will experience that, or just tired growing a person, and many moms are working full time. And so it's a huge physical load on her being. And if she has a partner who really knows how to lift that load with her and sees his responsibility or their responsibility in supporting mom, who's maybe just 8 weeks pregnant, and you can't even see that she's pregnant, supporting her by maybe pulling the curtains and saying, let's take a nap together, or can I get you a cup of tea, or can I just give you a shoulder massage, or let's play some soft music, or let's talk, about how we're doing, and, or, what are your needs? Can I help you with your needs? All of that kind of partnering around the pregnancy from the very get-go it has amazing effects on the baby. And we're seeing more and more research, epigenetics. Some of the more negative aspects of the epigenetics, where people tend to go guilty, is that things like mental disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, is often dependent on the maternal experiences in those first months of pregnancy, those first 9 months of pregnancy, or but right from the get-go, even more so in the second trimester. And so mother's psychological well-being is affecting baby. And that's not to promote guilt in women. That's just to say that women need to be cared for even more deeply. And our culture is not set up for that. It doesn't really recognize how important those first few months are in really creating the soil for this amazing being to grow in and out of. And so we want to bring that to consciousness. We want to bring that attention, that care, that positivity and delight around the mother right away. I have so many stories of just when a woman reads on the pee stick, that she's pregnant, and the mix of feelings. She may be disappointed, or she may be really excited, or she may feel all, and then how she's received, she never forgets. She never forgets if the partner said, "Wow, that's wonderful. Like, how are you feeling? How does that feel to you?" Or, "Oh, we've been wanting this for so long. That's so exciting." Or, the negativity, like, "I didn't want this," or "This is not what I want." That gets very recorded. So even at that point, the response of the partners to the announcement of pregnancies, we're starting the game right there. So that would take some reflection, and if we didn't respond the way we wanted to, we can always come back and just say, the way I spoke about this pregnancy, I didn't get it the way I really wanted in my heart. I want you to know that I'm really with you. I'm really supporting you. I want to be with you 100%. I want us to do this together. You're not alone. I'm really here for the whole ride. And those kinds of conversations in that first trimester, where there's can be ambivalence, like, how's this going to go? Are we going to have enough money? Ooh, it's a little too early for this pregnancy, or I never wanted to be pregnant, but okay, I guess I'll adapt. All those kinds of feelings, if it's held by a partner in delight, in kindness, in gentleness, in compassion, all those emotional states count for a whole lot and are remembered for life. So I just kind of want to raise that those ideas. And so how do we talk about this transition period so that we get better and better at becoming parents at the very beginning? So the first thing is communication. So how do we talk to each other? And how do we talk to each other when there's stressors, when there's negativity, when there's unknown, when not feeling good, when often what happens is that, let's say somebody's getting pregnant when they're 30 years old. They spent their 20s trying to pull their career together and get some clarity about what they want to do in the world, and they're on the go, they're moving, and they don't have a lot of time to really analyze how they were raised. and really go into depth into like how would that affect their psychology once they were parents, because that does. How we were raised, and be it the social, emotional, cultural environment that we were raised in, is going to go into the subconscious and is going to rule. The subconscious rules 80% of your life, and if you don't bring that more to the to the prefrontal cortex, more to the front of the brain, more to the observation, we are more vulnerable to just recreating patterns that we didn't really like as kids. So good conversation about okay, we're stepping into parenthood, what material is lurking, and that would behoove us to look at. So just looking at our own personal psychology and our parents, and making clear choices about what we think we're going to be needing as parents, or what we think we're going to bump up against, or how we want to, if the parents took a right or the grandparents took a right, we want to take a left. How are we consciously going to move in this direction, say about education or about health, or how we are with our children? So conscious communication, a lot of it, whenever possible, all throughout the pregnancies and for the next 30 years or so, is really, really important, and really helping each other to grow. And so what really helps relationships stay together, um, well, it used to be religion helped us stay together, because getting a divorce was a complicated affair in that kind of cultural context. But now that doesn't have as strong a hold on people. So divorce rates are pretty high in the West. And here I'm talking from Auroville in India. So the context here, where you may have arranged marriage and things, and actually statistically those marriages have tended to do a lot better than love marriages, just because there's a social environment and an expectation that people are willing to surrender to, that actually makes relationship easier, I think. So at any rate, just a deepening into a growth together. So instead of seeing relationship as a survival mode, which is kind of how we got into marriages, like it was an efficient way of knowing where babies came from. It was an efficient way of making sure lands were passed from son to son. Of It was efficient, staying married worked for the community, it worked for the social constructs, and those things are dismantling. So now we have to go to another place to keep us together, which is the highest benefit to the child, is to have two parents in the house, I think. Although there are plenty of single parents that are doing a fantastic job. Let me make sure I balance that conversation out. But if you are doing this in partnering, this is an opportunity to step out of survival modes, doing relationship for the purpose of owning a home together, or it works for our work or for our families, stepping out of that kind of just getting your basic needs survival into a higher grade of the reason we're having a relationship and having a child is because it's going to help us grow. And that you could take that from just a psychological perspective, grow in maturity, in emotional maturity, and grow in depth of being and a certain kind of wisdom. You could say it from that perspective. And then the perspective I like to keep my whole being oriented towards is the spiritual perspective. We can grow spiritually together. And actually, you can even deem your relationship a spiritual relationship. And using child rearing and all the cooperation, all the surrendering of your own ego, and all the letting go for the benefit of the child, and do that in collaboration with somebody else, it will make you grow. You know, adulting is not for the faint of heart. It's hard to release your wants and desires and some of your needs just so that this child does well. But that's what's going to be required. And so that whole transition into that mode of being requires that the two parents do grow up and help each other to grow up, and help each other to learn things that they never saw their parents talk about. They don't see their friends doing it. But in this relationship, for the sake of the whole, let's say it's the first baby, the three of us, mother, father, child, or mother, partner, child, the three of us, it behooves us to really think about our thinking, to talk about our talking, to become as conscious and full of intent as we can, because we're going to grow a whole human being, and we will give that being the chance to be joyous, to be a contribution to the world, to be independent in its thought. And if we really think about it together, and we, work on our relationship, or play with our relationship, as and we deepen together, we're going to bring these gifts to this child. And let me tell you, now I have adult children. Those gifts do come back, in the sense of just the it's like being a gardener. You see this full bloom, this flower in full bloom. Your child is blossoming in their 20s and 30s, and you're looking at them. You go, this is such joy to see the fruit of my labor, to see that all my intending for the good for this other being is actually, it really works. So doing that together is very potent, and to do it using great communication skills. So, I would recommend to couples who've been together for 1, 2, 3, 5 years and now are having a baby or even longer, to really do a lot of deep conversation about, well, what are we doing here with this baby? How do we want this person to grow up? What do we believe in? Who are we at the core? What are our hidden, shadow-like, unconscious things that we can kind of unearth, maybe reflecting, using each other as mirrors, like, oh, I see you tend to struggle with stress over here at work in this place, and I think that's proving something with regards to your parents. Or, oh, I see that you struggle with time, and you're always late for things because you're overdoing, excessing over here. And you can help each other, not from attack, but just from being good buddies, and speaking deeply about each other's lives. And that growth, that growing together, is what makes people stick together, because it's exciting to learn together. It's exciting to expand in our capacity to love, because from a spiritual perspective, that's what I see we're doing here, is we're expanding in our love of the world, our love of ourselves, our love of each other, our love of our divine, whatever that is, our love of this child. We're keep expanding that. So if we keep our eye on that, and we help each other to grow in that direction, we tend to stick together for the full project of raising a child, because we know we're really benefiting deeply, even if growing sometimes is uncomfortable. Sometimes we hit our edges, or sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone. That's growth. But that'll do the trick in my book, as far as keeping people together. What they say about loving relationships, not only does growth really help to keep a loving relationship thriving, instead of just surviving. What also does the trick is having clear intention, is like, why are we together? Oh, let's be together for the purpose of growth, or for the purpose of spiritual expansion, or learning how to love better. Let's create a purpose. So, let's be in the same boat together, going in the same direction. So that intentionality really helps. The other thing is, creating some thrill in your life, creating some imagining, how can we expand this family raising in a way that is really scrumptious and delightful, and a little scary. And maybe we, you can just dream into it. Like, maybe we do some traveling as a family. Maybe we rent a sailboat and travel that way. Maybe we do some hiking, and or we play music together, and we really expand our capacity as a musical family. But some dreaming into, like, what would be really edgy and thrilling, because the mind will release more dopamine, and we'll stick together better when we have these ways of coming together. So through growth and through thrill, and novelty is the other one. So novelty means newness in relationships. So being responsible to each other in communicating about, well, let's try this new thing, let's try that new thing, because newness also kicks up the love hormones. And so each is responsible for bringing in new information. So how I would ground this, I would say that when you're raising your children, that you have together decided to come together at least once a week for a conversation about the business of raising a child. Like, oh, we need more diapers, and I need to get the car fixed, and okay, bring home more bread this week or whatever. There's conversation about what the house needs and what the baby needs and what each other needs. And like, oh, I need to go play basketball on Thursday. It says the dad, and the mother says, I need to be with my girlfriends at least 3 times a week. So I have to organize that with the daycare or whatever. But those are the things that usually keep people healthy, is to have personal time. But that needs a time of the week to really organize and to talk about the business of raising a child. And so you put that, like, let's say on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, that's our business meeting, and that you're consistent on it, so that there's no surprises during the week around people's needs being met, because it's been discussed in a rational, quiet, post-lunch atmosphere, let's say, when people are in the mood to talk about things, and we have an agreement for that. So I would put that in the framework of parent raising, being parenting together. Um, is a time to actually do a meta conversation about what's going on here in this household. And then you can start that in pregnancy. And then you can, so it's just a discussion about how's our couple doing, and what do we need to do to keep setting new routines and rituals in our family, in our coupleship, that will nourish us over time. And then the second thing I would put in there is a romantic date. So of course the glue for relationship is not just communication from the soul, and doing rhythms together that are wonderful, like getting up in the morning, make the bed together, just then there's sexuality and intimacy. And I say those two words because just hugging and touching and kissing in the morning, that sensuality, that intimacy counts for a lot for both genders, or all genders. And so putting that into your life. So on a romantic end, let's say you decide that Friday's going to be our romantic night, or Sunday morning, all morning is going to be just time to get dressed beautifully. Let's say you go out on a date on Friday, and just each other has arranged for different kinds of dates. So there's co-leadership in who's creating the date. We're going to go to this place. We're going to do take a long walk by the beach. Or we're going to go to this favorite new restaurant that I'd love to go to again, and like whatever it is that creates spark between you, so that maybe on Sunday morning that would be time when everybody's relaxed from work to make love, or just to touch each other sensuously in the bed, or take a shower together. Many parents find that shower time when the baby is napping could be a nice thing, but to put that time aside. And we wouldn't have to do it if we didn't have capitalistic society that's working 40 hours or more per week and it's on the go all the time. But because people are really kind of fried out in these days, and hopefully that'll change with AI or with time or whatever, that we'll have more time, personal time in our lives. But because of that, we kind of have to schedule when we're talking about relationship, and when we're actually engaging in the romance of the relationship, the connecting time of the relationship, and to have a discussion about that, to bring that on board and create a strengthening of the relationship through that conscious intent for time together. And so building that into, oh, we just got pregnant, here's our first trimester, let's start practicing these new rhythms and rituals of togetherness, of conversation, and of going places, of doing new things, of thinking how we want to raise this kid and what are our values. And all of that deepening can happen, recognizing that you have years ahead of you to get better and better and better at this growing together, at this sharing together. So it don't make this a burden, make this a joyous exploration that you have time for. And just set your goals, like we're going in this direction, that we're going to be even more powerfully intimate together. We're going to be even more conscious around what we're doing to elevate this child, and creating an optimal environment for the child in pregnancy and after postpartum and afterwards. Just see yourself as, this is kind of the 30-year unfolding, and be excited and enthusiastic about all the things that can grow together, and do the research and the studying. And definitely I would recommend prenatal classes together, where the man is really attending and the partner is really attending and is taking responsibility for all the pregnancy developments, and is also sharing in the delight. Like an example, learning that babies can hear at 6 months in utero, and so they can actually hear their father's voice very well. And so it's a great time for dads to be reading a story to the baby, or singing songs, or tapping, on the belly a little bit and creating connection with the baby. And that actually pays off over time. We see videos of fathers who used to say "Om" to their child in utero, and that is the calming thing that they can do postpartum, when the baby is small and needing to hear daddy's voice. And actually, as a midwife, if I have a baby that's having trouble breathing, I'll have the father speak to the baby and say, "Tell the baby you're here." And so he'll say, excuse me, he'll say, "Welcome, baby. We're glad you're here. We love you. We love you. Come on down. Breathe now, baby. I'm with you." And actually, baby will hear daddy and start to breathe. It's like the best medicine ever. And so, and in the birth room, if a baby, many babies, it takes a little bit. Most babies start to breathe within the first minute, but if it's a 2-minute thing or something like that, they might bring the baby over to the warmer beside the bed, or across the room. And if the father can just go over there and hold the baby's hands while they're getting the baby to breathe, and do that emotional connection right away with the baby, I see far far better results. Um, and I see that the father is taking his place as the father of the family, and hasn't totally surrendered it to hospital behaviors. They're also engaged with it. And that takes a little bit of guts, because sometimes people don't feel very empowered in the hospital. Men don't feel very empowered in the hospital, and they don't know what their place is. But I can tell you, as a midwife, your place is by your partner, and it's by your baby. So if your baby's not by the partner, go with the baby, so the partner, and the baby has his main guy there with him. And so that communication and partnering and co-belonging and intimacy, the more we step into our leadership, with regards to the family, with regards to the other partner, initiating time together, initiating contact and communication, being that leader, that hero for each other, that is something that a man can call himself up to, that a partner can call themselves up to. So I wanted to bring that out. Another thing that happens emotionally is that people have fears. Some fathers are afraid of, like, the economics. How is this going to work out economically, to have another mouth to feed? And how about my career? And the mother might have that concern also. How about my career? How about my further education? Like, I might want to get my master's degree when the child is small, so I can continue doing my work. All those kinds of negotiations and conversations and fears should just be brought to the surface and looked at together as a team. Like, okay, let's try to meet each other in these needs. And it's okay to be afraid of, whatever your inner being is afraid of. It's just, but it really loosens up things when you're able to share with your partner about, like, "Oh, I'm kind of concerned that the doctor doesn't really understand my birth plan, or what I really want," and to talk that out with the partner, and then you can co-think together. So that learning to co-think, to strategize, and to problem solve, it's important to start that right away, and start those habits. And I think it alleviates the field. So even pregnant, if a woman is feeling what we call negative feelings, and in my book there are no negative feelings. There are feelings that are a little denser vibration, let's say. But fear, anger, sadness, it's not like they're negative. They're just neutral pieces of information. I feel sad because of this, or I feel really upset because of that. It's information. And then our wise ways of being with it is to take the information, absorb it, understand it, and nurture it, get some ideas around it, whatever bell it's ringing. If I'm feeling afraid, maybe I should talk to my physician about this, or if I'm feeling really sad, I should maybe process it with my partner. So you get the information, and then you let it flow through your system. Don't It's called emotion because it's energy in motion. So emotion is there to inform you and move through you, and so you can use your breath and locate how it feels in the body, and let it go after you've squeezed the juice out of it, after you've gotten the information. And so men have just as many emotions as women. They may not be as well trained. In these days, little boys don't get good training about using words around what they're feeling and communicating. And so women might feel like they got a hand up, and sometimes lonely, because there's disparity between both communication abilities. But once men who weren't raised with good language around their feelings and being able to express them, and or to have tears or to have doubts or to have sadness. Once they learn how to be authentic to their own being, and they can partner with their partner around that, that creates an intimacy that creates a depth of connection. And what the science says about men who are connected and responsible, responding to their emotions with skill, with emotional intelligence, once they get to a certain level of that and have words for that, then the partnering has even more depth, more beauty, more opportunity for growing, and then there's a kind of a better balance, so the woman isn't so much doing the education around the emotional field. Um, and I'm using men and women as a gendered, um, just stereotypes. Of course, it could be that you have two partners where the man is more skilled than the woman at explaining his inner world. But I would say on the whole, women get this training when they're 8 years old, while in the playground, and boys might be playing soccer or and will have to be competing, and testosterone is moving their bodies very quick in certain ways, and the female estrogen of little girls is usually creating a more of a need for social connection and bonding, and you need words for that, and so they get more skilled at that. So it's not like one gender has more intelligence or something like that around uh, emotional verbiage. It's just that it's skill and the number of hours that we put into it. But both genders have the plethora of feelings, and it's okay to have any feeling. But that stuff needs to be addressed together, because that's the stuff of intimacy. It's the stuff of creating growth together, and it's the stuff that's really going to help this baby that'll grow into a 3-year-old and a 17-year-old, and we'll be having plenty of emotions. So if the family knows how to do this together, then we've got a whole child in the end. So I know I'm giving out a mouthful here, but I hope you guys can kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about as far as the deepening together. I guess I'm just looking at the things that I had planned to talk to you about. I talked a little bit about leadership around co-creating the way we're responding to pregnancy together, and initiating date nights or initiating sensuous time together or touch. And just because for men and women, what we should know about sexuality is that for men, getting an erection and getting to it, it can be very, very quick, because they're very visual in their response. And for females, just to have a female have a preparation for penetration or intercourse, and that's not the whole point of sexuality, but let's say that's the direction, because the whole point is intimacy. So you don't have to have an orgasm; you can just have touch. But if we're wanting the whole meal, let's say, it takes 30 minutes for most women, and it takes lots of learning from each other as to how that particular woman's body works. Because if you look at what a clitoris and a vagina and all that looks like, it's got a lot more complication than the male. The clitoris is kind of like a wishbone, starting from the little knob as a clitoris and all through the labias and downwards into the vagina. And so its arousal and the thickening and moistening of that tissue can take 30 minutes. It's kind of like, for a female, you go from the head and the buzziness of our daily life to go into the heart and actually feeling connected to the person that she's making love to, her partner, and then into the lower body and into the sexual regions that need that responsive moisture. But that couples that work well kind of know that the female body is very different than the male. She's and she's got different hormonal needs, and to really tend to each other and care for each other. And that's where there's an opportunity there in the bedroom for conversation, for talking all the way through lovemaking till, for months on end, until we get really good at this together, to say, oh, I like it this way, not like that. Please do this and don't do that. Like very gently, and train each other. Because I feel sorry sometimes for guys, because, their partners, they don't get the whole map of that specific person's way of being. And for every female, it's different, and so they have to relearn maps if they have multiple partners. And so those who are really good at that kind of sexual intimacy are the ones that have first an intuitive sense of each other and are connected to intuitively feeling and knowing each other and responding with kindness and providing for each other, but also a communication like, I like this and I don't like this, do this more, do this less, specific things. And I put that in there because it's a whole of how do we prepare for this pregnancy, and being in the pregnancy, some people will be making love all the way through pregnancy, and some people will abstain for certain parts or the whole part or whatever the choices are. At least have the conversations about, what's our intention here, what are our beliefs, what are we doing, so that everybody feels really heard and seen in the couple, and the pregnancy is more relaxed. So let me see, I'll go through my notes. I think I pretty much shared, you know, my primary concerns around couples coming together for the benefit of their child, and how to communicate, how to be together and through the heart, how to care deeply. That it would be good to initiate. Each person takes their 50% of initiating new things. That maybe some learning needs to happen, like childbirth ed classes or intimacy classes, and definitely, I love nonviolent communication, or NVC as they say, or conscious communication, or authentic relating. These are all classes you can take online. These are all things that you can do to strengthen your relating and strengthen the satisfaction in the parenting that's coming, and will help weather a lot of storms if you get your couple's capacity together nicely worked through. And so that's this episode on basically looking at the foundations of relationship as you step into pregnancy and parenthood, and starting to put those foundations in. And as I conclude here, if you have any questions, or if anything you're really wanting to know and you'd like some deepening into, shoot us an email and we'll take a look and see if we can answer a few questions. And I leave you wishing you all the best. May you see pregnancy as a spiritual growth opportunity, as an opportunity for your love to go deeper. And I wish the best on your child.